London calling to the faraway towns. Well, this is not the Clash, this is the psychology of endurance performance. It's very close to the London Marathon this year, and this talk is going through some of the psychological tips that you can use to give yourself a tune-up for the big event. But it's not just about this marathon. What we'll be looking at is endurance performance, keeping going for long, keeping positive, getting the job done, achieving goals, and that can be applied to any task. So let's look specifically about London's final few days. Today is Wednesday, the run is Sunday. So at this point it's logistics. It's about what you're going to be eating the day before, where you're going to be staying, how do you get your race numbers, how do you get down to the start, all of those logistical factors. And actually London marathons take quite a bit of planning, and on the race day this year there might well be a train strike, so that adds to the complexity. But at this point, go through the planning. Advanced planning makes your life a lot easier. What you wish to avoid is what you wish to avoid is stressing out 2 or 3 days before when you haven't got what you think, you haven't got what you need. And I mean, one of the big challenges around that is around diet. And you have raced and trained on a certain diet, well, that would have been prepared at home. We'll go down to London, and if you change your diet, usually this could have fairly serious effects on your how you feel on the day. So plan all that out. Plan what you're going to eat. Get that all ready so that you're clear in your mind what works for you, and so that you've got all of that in place. The day before the race, that's about planning your strategy. Now, you've begun this already. You had a goal probably for some while of it, and it probably is a time-based goal, and that's okay because that makes all sense. You've got to judge the weather and whether that's going to be appropriate. And this year, of course, it might be getting a bit hot during the latter parts of the run. And what we'll look at in this talk, how your mindset can alter how you see a performance, and how pleasant that is, your physiology in that performance, how detrimental that can be to delivering your goals. So it's about getting a plan of how you're going to race, and particularly, I think is really important, is those first few miles, because there's a lot of excitement in the London Marathon, and the temptation is to go off too quickly. That excitement to go off too quickly can leave you fatigued at a point you don't want to be fatigued. And I'll tell you what, the London Marathon on the embankment in the final few miles can be a really public place to be exhausted. But, so you plan for that. You plan the amount of energy you've got, you plan for how you're going to approach achieving those goals, and you plan your mindset for how you're going to be dealing with the difficult moments, thinking through them. We're going to be talking all about that in this talk, but that's in essence what we're going to be doing. Then on the start line, you're making a plan for the first few miles. And that's really clear, really important to make that start line for the first few miles and be positive. At this point, self-affirmations that you can is really, really important. So, psychological skills, in essence what we're looking at. To start with, we all use them, we've all got them. Sometimes we think these are only something elite athletes use, and that's not true at all. And when we look at how people manage their mood states, we see a whole series of actions, thoughts, strategies that people use to change their mood state, to make them feel better, to make them achieve their goals, to take different courses of action. People reflect on previous experiences, they plan, they strategize, they develop tactics. These are all self-regulatory strategies that people use to deliver performance. And they're not far off they're not far off what are psychological skills as defined and as specified in some of the psychology literature. We're going to look at 3 in essence, well, we look at more than three, but there's three main ones which we're going to focus on. Goal setting, idea whether those goals are outcome focused, in other words, I want to achieve X. A running time is an outcome, a running position is an outcome, I want to achieve X. They can be fixed in terms of I must achieve 3 hours. I had 25 years of trying to achieve a 3-hour marathon, and there were times when I set out for marathon races where I had literally very little chance of getting there, because sub 3 was right on the edge of what I could do in terms of lots of different physical parameters would support that. And if you're running into a 50-mile-an-hour wind, as we did in Milton Keynes in 2012, in torrential driving rain, the notion that you're going to be running faster than you've done before is somewhat unrealistic. So you sometimes have to manage your goals around the task that you're going into. We also look at process goals. We're really into process goals, and that is focusing on what you're doing in the here and now. The process, what you need to do in order to achieve your strategy. And that can be, or is typically broken down into what you're thinking about to make that task more efficient. So what you're doing, you're getting either the same performance, same speed, but for less effort, or if you maximise the effort, you go faster. That's the plan. And then we have two strategies: imagery, imagining yourself performing, seeing yourself performing well, seeing yourself performing smoothly, efficiently, seeing yourself overcoming difficult moments, seeing yourself coming through dark times in races. And London Marathon, as with most endurance events, will have its dark moments. Do not expect the endurance events to be all happy affairs. They have some difficult moments. The images that flash through your mind can be very negative. You can practice how you interpret those images. You can look at yourself performing so that you go into your race really, really positive. And then there's the inner narrative, your self-talk. This can be positive, I can do everything, or negative, you can't do this, you expletive. And I'll tell you what, in our research into runners shows that they can be a right negative group. We did a study and they looked at emotions, and they regulate their emotions often in a really negative way by really chastising themselves. Now that can be motivational, and that what negative emotions will do, send a signal that if this is not good enough, you better try harder. That's all good, but actually it might not be so good, because it might actually, you start believing your own negative self-talk. So you need to think about that. Really, the suggestion is to be kind to yourself and to focus on strategies that actually help you get there more smoothly, more efficiently, quicker. The idea that you can perform at the same intensity but for less effort is a good one. And if you want to go faster, if you get more efficient, you raise up the intensity and you actually go faster. And self-talk can help you do that. So we typically get that from a sports psychologist, or it could be from self-guided instruction, and there's a lot of that. There's a lot more use of it than it need be. So, this is how we see it all connecting together. Be clear on your goal. Use self-talk to manage the inner dialogue, and imagery to be confident about what you can do. We see them connecting and interconnecting. The goal will increase level of emotion, excitement, anxiety. Your self-talk has to be one which interprets it to how you can do it, what to focus on in order to do that. This very act of simply saying that you can do it is not necessarily helpful at all, but you need a plan of how to do it. You need to know what you're going to do, what you put your mind into thinking about. Within running, we often we have done lots of work in terms of focusing on process, trying to run as efficiently as possible. And in order to do so, you looking to reduce the physiological cost, and also a nice little study we did where our inner dialogue makes everything much worse. So we set goals. Your goal need to energise you. Achieve the impossible. Some of the stuff we have done with Greg White from who's our world famous sports scientist, always seen on the television, and does great work. And we've done lots of research with Professor White, and he's a great guy to work with, and he's an inspirational person to be training with and be inspired by. And his book, Achieve the Impossible, has got some nice diagrams. So it starts with belief. You set a goal to do, say, sub 4 in a marathon, and you need the belief that you can do that. You need to think that you're going to achieve that. And at the moment, that starting point, that is no more than a wild set of beliefs, based a little bit on the previous experiences, but it's a belief. And it needs confirming, it needs bringing back, it needs evidencing from your training. That then goes to commitment. I will do this session today. The session helps inform your process working towards that goal. You then get results. I achieved this goal, and from that you get motivation. I did achieve this, I know I can do it. And then that feeds back into the notion that you can achieve. And that is a process that cycles, and that the belief that you can achieve this is grown and developed over time with training. And the physical training that demonstrates you can run quicker, more efficiently, for longer, faster for longer, or just for longer, is building the belief that you're going to achieve this goal. So if your goal is to finish the London Marathon, progressively running for longer, feeds into the belief that you're confident that you can run for that length of the day. Sometimes you need to manipulate how you train in order to manage those beliefs, but being aware that in training that you're going to get the feedback that helps you perform on the day, that brings reinforcement that you can do this, is vitally important. Structuring your training so that our progressive gains is absolutely vital, so that there's that growth in confidence, that belief that you can achieve this, and knowledge that you have the inner capabilities on the day to be able to do so. We're going to be looking again at how we make best use of reflection, so we really reinforce that. But that's a journey that starts with something really difficult. For many people starting London Marathon on Sunday, this is exactly where they're at, and their belief might well be wavering, and we're going to be looking at ways to reduce that wavering. Remember, this doesn't always have to be about sport and your journey to be about changing what you want. Here's a great example. Two photos taken 10 years apart. One of them is the price of what it takes to become a professor, and the other is where you finally get your act together to realise that your sub-3 goal you set in 1992 actually requires the work in order to do so. But of all the achievements, sometimes we need to look back, and that's one of my... So what about you? What is your goal? How excited is this goal? How committed are you to achieve it? You're going to set out a training plan, a budget of time. How committed are you to do that? We can use psychological skills to help you achieve that. And now we will look at how we can fine-tune these. But let us start by looking at how our inner dialogue makes everything feel harder. We did a study with cyclists over 10 miles, and what we were interested in is how they performed when they were feeling very negative. And now many people set outcome goals to do X and Y, to cycle 10 miles in 25 minutes, or run a marathon in under 3 hours, 4 hours, 3 hours 30. The Good for Age time has just been released. That's relevant to lots of people I know who then will be trying to run the Good for Age time at London in under a certain time. That's all very good. It's all well and good. But what that will entail is them having a very fixed goal. Now, if they are behind that goal, if they believe that they are behind that goal, in other words, they think they are going slower than what they actually are, they're looking at their watch and they're judging the mile markers, or they're using a sat-nav watch, which and we'll look at them later in some examples, notoriously inaccurate. That can lead to misperceptions that you're either behind or above your race target. Now, where we manipulated so that we, in essence, gave people false feedback, either they were ahead of their goal or behind their goal. Very simply, when you're ahead of your goal, you're happier. That's not rocket science. You feel more energetic. That's slightly better, that you feel more energetic. They are performing at exactly the same intensity. So they're going at the same speed. They're delivering that speed differently, we'll see that later, but they are going at the same speed. So you feel more energetic, feel happier at delivering the same speed. It's easier. You feel less downhearted. You can see the progressively less downhearted, progressively increasing how downhearted people feel when they think the race or ride or performance is going worse than their expectations and they can't bring it back. That inner dialogue of negativity is bringing feelings of downheartedness, lacking of happiness, lacking of a feeling of energy, then that is not good for delivering. Feeling increasing anxiety. So when they were told they were getting negative feedback, they started feeling anxious. So when people start looking at their watches and realise they're a bit behind the time, the sense of anxiety, the reaction to that anxiety, to potentially to try harder, doesn't necessarily bring about a positive response in terms of efficiency, which is a key requirement for performance. This is a really interesting finding, is that there's a physiological difference between the two. When you're told you're going faster, when the feedback is positive, when your internal dialogue says we're on the pace here, this is good, you are more efficient. The potential for you to use that oxygen is there. It's clearly there because you're the same person. Those two graphs are the same person. You could have gone harder. You could have used more oxygen. It would have felt more difficult. And then there. And when we look at the positive and negative, there's an interruption in the process. When it's negative, it's erratic. The power spikes. When it's positive, they're far fewer. It's smoother. It's more relaxed. The process through which the skill is being delivered in the positive condition is far smoother, more efficiently likely to lead to performance in the long run. So how do we manage self-talk around fatigue? So one of the things then to do is to accept the self-talk. Accept that self-talk will be negative. Think back to times when it's negative because it's a function. A great one. So the key message on that part is focus on the outcome can have negative effects. And if it does not go to plan or perceive that it's going to plan, that will then, a spiral of negativity can follow. By focusing on the process, by putting your effort into running efficiently, you're doing all you can. You can distract yourself, but you're likely to only work at a lower intensity. So think that through. And think through how you'd feel in terms of your emotional response if you don't achieve the goal that you wanted. That's absolutely fine. I think many people get very negative about their achievement of goals, but their goal was unrealistic to start with. Mine, in many cases, of 3-hour attempts, that it was never going to happen. You need to think that through, and in your process of appraising, there are times when you go, actually, this is where we're going to do it, and there is no option, there's no second option. For elite athletes take that approach, of course. The Olympic comes every 4 years, you don't get a second go at it. But for many people, they don't need to be so hard on themselves. There are opportunities to go again, and these are not perfect conditions. If they're not perfect conditions, then you give yourself another go when there are better conditions. And can't change. We have no control of the weather on Sunday, or the weather in any other events. You have some control over whether you choose to run in a hilly marathon. or a flat one, and so on, but you only have certain choices. You have some control whether you get a beautiful paced group that sits right in front of you, blocking the wind, or you end up running largely on your own, or you end up running with people who are erratic, can be very irritating. You don't get much choice. So let's look at confidence. Let's get some confidence. Let's use reflection as a way to build confidence. Many people use Strava and various other training platforms where they record their data launched up online, and actually a training diary is really quite useful way of being able to recall your training, because you've got it tracks it, so it tracks you moving, and by wiggling through the mouse you can see your performance as it comes in real time, and that is actually very useful. That is a very useful way of going through reflection. And what we've got here is my Strava data, just as an example, and we're going into the London Marathon in 2018, and we've got my successful London Marathon in 2015, and since then, of course, life hasn't been so great in terms of running, and life hasn't been so great at all, actually, but in terms of running, and we've had arthritis in the knee, and that's makes me rather miserable from the running part. And so it makes training very difficult, but I'm running the London Marathon on Sunday, so there's time for reflection in terms of, am I fit enough? In terms of running quickly for 3 hours, I have no goals for time, because I don't set realistic goals around that. I can't set realistic goals around that, because I have no real idea of how quick I can run and for how long. My only running quick is in a park run, because my knee copes that absolutely perfectly. And most of the longer runs I've been running very gently, so that I don't aggravate my knee. It's a process where I'm learning to keep running, because running is a fantastic way to manage stress, and getting outside and all the therapeutic effects of nature is absolutely perfect, and cycling doesn't offer that because you get run over, or you hit a pothole, and so on and so forth, those parts. So in 2015, that's the comparison, is in April. And in April, I've done 302 kilometres. Currently, so far, with a week to go, we've done 230. That's pretty comparable. And in April last year, I did 27 hours of training. This year, I've done 24 hours of training. What I've done is replace the long runs with long rows, long bike rides. What I've done is increase the intensity of those long rows and long runs, so they're really hard. We got into rowing last year as a means to replace training for running. It's not perfect, but it gives you the heart rate training, of which you know you can do it. So in terms of cardiovascularly, I'm super confident that I can run a marathon on Sunday. I've actually ran a marathon on this Sunday, with my lovely wife, so that was good as well. So there's confidence. There's less confidence in the goal. There's confidence I can finish. Less confidence in the goal. The goal of actually setting time is not been set. That's absolutely fine. And so what we have is a goal to go as hard as possible. And so I'll start running around about 22, 23 minutes for 5k, and see how we go. Will the last 10 miles be difficult? Yep. They'll be difficult. Were they always going to be difficult? Yep. They're always going to be difficult. The sub 3 one, they're really difficult. Of course they're difficult. What is the difference is my capability to run quickly, because of the fatiguing parts of running were not as good as they are now. It's not as good now as they are in 2015. I've developed the mechanism for running softly, and therefore not aggravating your knee, is really confident with. So I'm absolutely confident I can run the 26 miles. And London is a great place to do it. And you get London, it's quite difficult to get in. I have a good for age place which runs out this year, and therefore this is an opportunity to do London. So I'm taking it. So reflection is review your performance and training data. Identify the key sessions which you can look at, which give you the confidence that I can do this. Review your thoughts and feelings in difficult moments and look to interpret those differences, and test strategies that help you focus on the process or help you distract in a way that's fun. So, we need to learn to access our inner strengths, and we have more strengths than we think. Set your goals, imagine yourself achieving these goals, get the language you say to yourself so it's helpful. Practice your mental skills, and practice leads to performance, to improvement. Any questions? This is going to be delivered live 24.